Phones. Whatever happened to the good old 3.5mm headphone jack on phones these days? What were they thinking? Well, I know what Apple was thinking. They were trying to steer everybody down their proprietary path, turn them onto, make people buy those AirPods. But you know what? There is plenty of alternatives around. One of them is getting yourself a nice little DAP or digital audio player. And in this video, I'm looking at the Hiby R3 Mark II. Let's get it. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews. So yeah, DAPs have a special place in my heart. Not only do they allow me to listen to music stored on an SD card or memory card, but I can also stream from my phone to this device via Bluetooth. I can also stream from my home network to this device via Wi-Fi. So they're really a lot more versatile than some people probably think. But let's get into some of the facts first. The price of the Hiby R3 Mark II is $179. Now just put that into context, that is less money, just over half the price of the TheAudio Hype 2 IEMs. That is roughly the same price as a lot of dongle DACs that you see floating around, and this is just so much more versatile. But we'll get into all that. Internally, this little guy has got dual ES9219C high performance DAC chips, so it's a dual DAC chip little unit. And we're going to start with a little walk around the exterior. So on the front here you can see, well, not really. It's got a 3.2 inch touch panel display. What's different about the R3 Mark II compared to Mark I, although I don't have the Mark I, is this volume wheel here, which also acts as a power button. And also on the right side here, you've got your playback controls. On the left side, you've got a micro SD card slot with a little rubber grommet covering it. It's a little bit tricky to open, but that's a good thing. That'll protect your card nicely in there. And from memory, I think it supports up to 2 terabyte micro SD cards. On the bottom here, you've got a 4.4mm balanced headphone jack, your USB Type-C for charging and data transfer, and you've got a 3.5mm single-ended headphone out. So apologies in advance if I do get fingerprints all over this. It's pretty likely. I forgot to order my cotton gloves again, so you'll just have to bear with me. But what I want to do now is I'll just walk you through the user interface and the operating system quickly, and then we'll talk about how this little guy sounds. So watch this. I'm going to press the power button, which is also the volume wheel, and it doesn't take very long to boot up. It's pretty quick. And there we go. It's taken me straight to my last played track. But if we go back to the beginning of this is basically the home screen. And it's something that looks pretty familiar. If you have owned any recent DAP, you will easily be able to find your way around. But let's go from the top. So in the music section here, you can choose from all browse folders and files. You can choose via artists, albums, genres. Now if we go into stream media here, you can see we've got Tidal and Qobuz native apps on the device already, which is pretty tasty. I wish they also had Spotify and a couple of other things, but that is very nice to have. If we go into wireless now, you can see you've got Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, input music via Wi-Fi, Hiby Link, which allows you to use your phone as a remote control to control the device. Then you've got DLNA and AirPlay, a very versatile system, and Hiby does this really well. Not only does this thing play music, but it's also got an ebook reader. Now I haven't tested this feature. I do have some ebooks, but they're on my phone. And I use these purely for music. And finally, if we go into the system menu here, there is a lot of options, and I'm not going to go through them all, but you've got all the important things in here. You've got high gain, low gain control. You've got gapless playback. You can actually turn the LED indicator off, which is something I forgot to mention. This LED indicator here, it's always on unless you disable it in the menu, and that will change colors depending on the current bitrate or sample rate of the music that you are currently playing. I love that feature. Hiby DAPs also work with inline remotes, so if you've got an IEM or a headphone with an inline remote on the cable, you can actually use that to pause and resume playback, etc. And it just goes on and on and on. There are so many things you can do. You can actually rotate the screen, so if you want to use it upside down, depending on how you like to keep it, hold it in your pocket and whatnot. You can do firmware updates. You can do firmware updates via the SD card or via over the air. So if you are connected to a Wi-Fi network, you can check for firmware updates. So I might just check for any new firmware now, because Hiby are pretty good with providing updates. So what I'll do, there's a little pull down menu here, which is really handy. It gives you quick access to all your common functions, playback controls, but here I want to enable the Wi-Fi, and I have it already connected to my home network. So now if I go back to firmware update via OTA, I should be able to check the current version of the firmware. It tells me I'm on the latest version of the firmware. No need to update. Let me just disable Wi-Fi again. I love that little quick menu. Just like with the Hiby R3 Mark II, however, one little thing that I don't like, there doesn't seem to be any shortcut right back to the original home screen. And I know Shanling, what's their OS or UI called? Can't recall right now. Let me know in the comments what the operating system of the Shanling DAPs is. But with these ones, if you, from memory, with the M0 Pro here, you can just hold down your finger, touch the screen for a couple of seconds, no matter where you are within the system, and that will take you back to the home screen. That's a really handy feature. I wish Hiby OS would implement something similar, but as far as I can tell, they do not have that. You have to back until you get back to here. There is another entire sort of system menu. If you go into music and press on the little cog there, these are all your playback options, and they are just as extensive as the system options. And of course, being a Hiby product, you've got MSEB, which is the Magic Sound 8-ball. I think it stands for that, but let's have a look in here. Oh boy, you can just tweak the sound to your heart's desire. There are a lot of options in there. I'll give you a quick look at those, but I'm not going to go through each one of those. In addition to that, you've also got an equalizer, so we'll turn that on. You can tweak that to your heart's content, and you have to scroll. It doesn't all fit on one screen, but if you're into EQ, which I am not, you can do all that stuff. Now, as much as I like Hiby's operating system and I like the responsiveness of the operating system, it's nice and fast to use, but if you go into music and go into albums, for example, sometimes the album art can take a really long time to generate. Some screens, not always, but every now and then, like for example, look, I'm just sitting here waiting, and nothing appears, and it happens down here as well. So I'd like to see some improvement regarding that. That is obviously a limitation of the battery power and the processing unit and the inbuilt RAM or memory, but perhaps Hiby could consider maybe putting a faster processor in there so you get that album art a bit quicker. It's the way I like to browse through my music files, and it's a lot easier if you can. For me, it's a lot easier if I can just pick via the image. Now, there's just one more thing that I almost forgot to mention, and that is the battery life. And I've got to say, I'm really impressed with the battery life of the Hiby R3 Mark II The 2000 milliamp built-in battery gives you around 16 hours of continuous playback, which is pretty impressive. And on top of that, it charges from 0 to 100% in less than 2 hours, so outstanding battery life as well. Before we get into the sound, you've already seen how it compares size-wise to the Shanling M0, but here it is next to the Hiby R2 Mark II. And the R2 Mark II is just a little bit wider, and it's a little bit stubbier as well. It's got a smaller display. I like the way the R3 Mark II utilizes more of its display, more of its front panel rather, for its display. I like that. And that's what it looks like next to an iPhone 11. So you can get some idea how big it is. It fits in the palm of your hand. And I'll do a quick comparison with the R2 II in a little bit. First, I want to talk about how the R3 Mark II sounds. So first of all, in terms of power output, from the balanced output, you're looking at 380 milliwatts, and that's pretty substantial. That'll drive pretty much anything that can easily drive the Harmonic Dyne Zeus Elite here, and it can drive my Sennheiser HD650s and even the FiiO FT3. It can drive all those pretty easily, so that is not really a concern in terms of power output. So now getting into that sound, and remember, you have to keep in mind that you've got that MSEB feature or function and the equalizer as well, so you can really tweak the sound to whichever way you want, and there's a lot of versatility in that with Hiby devices. But in terms of sound signature, I'm getting a similar vibe to what I heard with the Hiby R2 Mark II, and that is to say that the R3 Mark II has a slightly forward vocal presentation with smooth highs and an authoritative bass. So it seems like the fundamental frequencies are sort of ever so slightly tilted towards the left on a graph, or towards the low end, so the bass and the mid-range and the lower mids, etc. And I found the bass reproduction is a standout feature here. It offers powerful and textured bass presentation. Each bass note is rendered with nice depth and clarity, providing a palpable presence to the low end frequencies. And then moving to the mid-range, the R3 Mark II offers a forward mid-range presentation with a distinct emphasis on vocals. So vocal lovers will absolutely be delighted by this sound signature, and this lends a captivating intimacy to vocal performances, allowing them to take center stage with clarity and emotion. The mid-range is both spacious and rich, providing ample room for instruments and vocals to breathe while maintaining a warm and engaging tonality with good note density and fairly good intimacy as well. The treble frequencies are a highlight of the R3 II's sound signature. They exude an open, airy quality that imparts a sense of expansiveness to the overall soundstage, and the level of the detail in the treble is impressive, ensuring that even the most intricate nuances of the music are faithfully reproduced, and that is despite of the slightly laid back nature of the treble. You still get excellent detail retrieval. So while the treble maintains its precision, there is a subtle softening that adds a touch of warmth to the highs without compromising the overall clarity or detail. And overall, I was really impressed by the quality of the soundstage and imaging of the R3 Mark II, particularly its channel separation, left and right channel separation, and the dynamic range. So, alright, that is my interpretation of how this sounds. I know that sounds a little bit scattered. It's difficult to describe the sound of a digital audio player, but let's do a quick comparison between the R3 Mark II and the R2 Mark II. Now, the Mark II is only $89. It is really, really good value. It's only got one of those DAC chips. It's only got a single ES9219C DAC chip in it. It has significantly less drive with its output power of only 90 milliwatts compared to 380 milliwatts from the R3 Mark II's balanced output. So if you need more power, it's definitely worth spending that extra money on the R3 Mark II. Physically, they're kind of both similar. I would call them similar in size. There's obvious differences, but really the biggest difference is the Hiby R2 Mark II has a polycarbonate chassis, whereas the R3 Mark II is aluminium. It's heavier, feels more substantial, it feels more premium, and just holding them side by side like that, the Hiby R2 Mark II feels a little bit like a toy, sort of like a cereal box find, whereas this one feels like a proper audiophile device. But when it comes to audio and sound signature, I would say the R2 Mark II's bass has a little bit less authority in the lows and a little bit less verve or energy, despite sharing a similar sound signature. And other areas where the R2 falls behind are in overall resolution and most notably in the sound stage. So the R2 Mark II has, I guess, similar soundstage dimensions, but its imaging prowess and instrument separation are not as clear. So you get a more 3D holographic type of soundstage on the R3 Mark II compared to the R2 II. So the R3 Mark II improved channel separation, less distortion, which ultimately leads to better audio quality. I feel as though that was a little bit rough for you to listen to, so I apologize for that. I'm doing my best. There is a lot to talk about here. I might have missed some points, and if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below and I'll do my best to answer anybody's queries. But folks, that is the Hiby R3 Mark III, and to summarize, I think this is fantastic. It is really, really nice. I would take this over a dongle DAC every day of the year. It costs less than a lot of dongle DACs, but you get so much more. You get that Wi-Fi connectivity, you get Bluetooth, you can stream from your phone, you've got Hiby Link, you can control it, use your telephone, smartphone as a remote for this device. Heaps of output power, balanced and single-ended options. You can even use it just as an audio transport and send audio out the USB-C port there. Honestly, such good value. Hiby seems to be smashing it when it comes to DAPs. I haven't tried any of the recent FIO ones. The last FIO DAP I think I tried was the M6, which was ages ago. It was like 2 or 3 years ago. So I can't really compare with those, but in my opinion, Hiby is just killing it in the digital audio player segment, and I highly recommend the R3 Mark II. So if you like this video, give it the old thumbs up, PowerFam audiophile style. If you're new to this channel and you want to see more content like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel. Leave a comment down below and ask your questions, or just leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this DAP. And until next time, I'll see you later.